So my name's Pat Luneman from Clarissa, Minnesota. So I'm here today to talk about the need to elect DFLers to the legislature and to send to Washington. And the reason that we need to do that is we need to send DFLers that have rural knowledge and have our rural values and that are at the table, so to speak, especially at our state legislature. We've had nearly all Republicans elected from outstate Minnesota, and so when it comes time to pick committee chairs, we don't even have anyone from rural Minnesota to fill those roles. So it's rather frustrating for me as someone who's played a role in public policy for many years, advocating for our rural areas and for our farmers to see what's happened in the last number of years, in the fact that we have gone a direction that I think is just wrong for Minnesota. One of the things that I'm concerned about as a citizen is that we've gone away from the truth, from the facts, and from belief in science. And those are core values that we as U.S. citizens should adhere to every day and not just doubt that. We need to get back to the truth. And we need to have positive leadership here in the state and especially at the national level. Leaders who think positively, don't denigrate others, and work so hard to bring not only our state and our nation together, but work together on a national and international level, bringing countries together. And the way that we have to do that is we have to be the beacon of light in the world. We have to do what's right, and we have to be out there to help others and be there when they need us. And right now we're going away from that with our movement towards nationalism in this country. It reminds me very much of the 1930s. I wasn't here yet, but that's a path that we should not be going down as a country. And I'm hopeful that we can find leadership in our state and in our nation in the next few years that will get us back on the right path. One of the things that I've been fighting for as a rural and agricultural advocate in Minnesota is the need for comprehensive immigration reform. I've worked on this issue for at least 20 years. I've been to Washington, D.C. I've worked with Senator Al Franken, and in those 20 years we've gone nowhere. And unfortunately, the extremists in our country are derailing the need for comprehensive immigration reform. We have a need in this country for more people, not less people. We have a need to bring in those vibrant folks who are here willing to lend their skills, their talent, and their energy to make our country better. My father was an immigrant that went through Ellis Island back in 1925. He and his two brothers and my grandparents came from Germany right after World War I. They knew that the situation was terrible. They came here to make a better life. And I wouldn't be here if they hadn't made that move. So they came here to make a better life. And so many others should be deserving. We have space in this country. I look at our Midwest here, and there's plenty of room for more people of all different kinds. And I would be proud if we would be supportive of an immigration policy that was inclusive and bringing in more wonderful people like I believe my grandparents and their generation brought in. As we look at comprehensive immigration reform, we have to look at those who are trying to derail progress in that arena. And what I have seen over the last 2 decades is that the Republican Party wants to keep people angry and does not want a solution because it's a way to stir people up, and it's something that they can use on the campaign trail and in the press to make everybody angry and blaming, and that's really not the road that we should be going down. The Democratic Party is much more inclusive and looking forward in solving the issue that we have with immigration reform. And yes, we have issues at the border. And if we would work toward a visa system that allows people to come here, but I can tell you the truth is that our visa system needs to be totally reformed and fixed from the top down to the bottom. And if we do that as a country with our Democratic Party in charge, I think we can make great progress. On foreign policy, I'm very concerned about the path that we're taking, the move to nationalism, isolating ourselves as a country. We as a nation should be reaching out to others and helping them, and we need to be a leader in strength. We need to have a strong national defense, but we need to use it properly and make sure that evil is kept at bay. As we look at the world today, it's a very scary place, and I'm afraid that we're going to leave our friends and allies behind. I just had a meeting with Howard Buffett last week, he was working recently with the Ukrainian ambassador. I saw her as well. And what they're seeing going on in the Ukraine and the fact that we're considering abandoning them as they're fighting the Russians right now is just demoralizing to me as an American. We need to help our friends that are in need, and we need to be there financially and also in person to help them out. Our educational system in the United States is something that we should be proud of. The public schools that we have formed this nation, and I look at our public education system as the way that we have created a melting pot in this country. And so the Republicans, in wanting to have private vouchers and moving more to private schools, I'm concerned about that. I'm okay with people wanting to send their children to a private school, but everyone in this country should have the ability to have a good education, and that means we need to have a good foundational public school system that fits that bill. One that teaches our students things like math and science and social studies so that we understand how our government works today. And we need to do that by making sure that all of our school systems are strong with support. And our Democratic Party has been very good, especially in the state of Minnesota, at reaching out and providing funding to improve our schools. I have been serving on the Governor Walz Climate Advisory Council for the last 3 years, and I was just reappointed to a second term. I can tell you that there are so many things that we can do positively as Minnesotans to battle climate change. And what I've learned by being part of the process is that there is truly a real problem that we need to solve as Minnesotans and as Americans, to come together and work on all the solutions. It's not just one or two solutions that are going to fix the problem. It's going to be working together and doing a little bit of everything to solve climate change. And all of us as citizens need to pull together to work on that. So I would urge everyone to work together with the Democratic Party and those of our other friends on the other side of the aisle that also believe that things need to be done. And together we can make great strides in solving the climate change issues that we have. And we have to think about, it's not just us, it's about our children and our grandchildren and the world that they live in that we need to be concerned about and make sure that there is a world that's safe and reliable and better for them tomorrow. The Inflation Reduction Act was a great stride forward in addressing climate change and some of the structural needs that we have in our country. And one of the amazing things about it, and I just learned this, is that 80% of the funding is going to counties in the United States that voted Republican in the last election. So what that tells us is that Democrats and Republicans can work together to make things happen in areas that need improvement. And as we look at getting manufacturing back into the United States, the Inflation Reduction Act will be a great part of that in providing funding and incentives to make that happen. We need to come together and make sure that we can make things in the United States. We have the people here, and if we bring in a few more guests and people into this country, we can again be a leader in making things happen. I'm proud of the Democratic Party's history on equal rights. when we look back at the Johnson administration and the major legislation that was passed in the Voting Rights Act and the Equal Rights Acts back in those days, that set the template for major changes in our country for the good. And I want my daughter, my granddaughters, my grandchildren, and people of all colors to be able to have equal rights in this country, to be able to work together so that we get to the point where we are not even recognizing we all have an equal ability to come together and get things done. So I've been working as an agricultural leader for many, many years, leading ag organizations in this state, asking for better farm policy in Minnesota and across the country. And I will say that for the most part, I'm proud of what we've developed in this country. We have an incredible agricultural system that we can be proud of, but it always can be just a little bit better. We need to be supportive of our farms and our family farms out there so that we have a future ahead of us here, so that the next generation can be here to help feed the world. And there are little things that we can do. Here in the state of Minnesota, I'm proud of our Commissioner Tom Peterson and his staff. Tom, in his role as Ag Commissioner, has done a great job, and we should be proud of what Tom has done and his staff has done across the country. And there are more things that we can do by coming together. Our legislature typically has been bipartisan, but it takes Democratic leadership to really pull things together and get things done for family farmers in Minnesota.